What's up guys, it's me, Jeremy. Patch 6.1 is finally out, and among all of the relatively large amount of balance changes taking place, there's always a few major indirect or hidden buffs that occur as a result of those changes. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to hit that like button, and if you don't enjoy the video, please click the dislike, and if this video hits, let's say, 8,000 ratings, I'll make another one of these for the next patch. Anyways, let's get started. The first group of champions who received an indirect buff are AP junglers who weren't really able to build Runeglaive. The new AP jungle item Runic Echoes is much more dynamic, and for champions like Fiddlesticks especially, as well as a lot of the other off-meta AP junglers, this new item is going to fit much more fluidly into their kits, and also adds in a nice touch of movement speed and a bit more mana regen, which is a nice tool for those kinds of champions. Runeglaive caused AP champions with useless auto attacks to have to resort to clunky rotations and weird combos in order to maximize their damage, but since Runic Echoes procs on a spell hit rather than on an auto attack, it's much easier to incorporate into a skill set. However, for the champions like Elise and Evelyn who were able to use Runeglaive perfectly fine, this is going to be a little bit of a nerf since the overall power of the item is just a little bit less. Either way, hopefully Runic Echoes will bring rise to some off-meta AP junglers, as the item can fit much more easily into an awkward skill set. The next group of champions who received an indirect buff are AD casters and assassins. With the improvements to Death's Dance, the item is likely to become core on a lot of these types of champions, since the stats and utility the item brings to the table are so perfect for what an AD caster or an assassin tries to accomplish. Damage, cooldown reduction, healing, and pseudo-tankiness all wrapped up into one awesome item with a fairly decent build path. And the only reason why it wasn't popular before is because it was hilariously gold inefficient, but now that that's improved by quite a bit, we're likely to see the champions that can make use of it get a leg up. Not to mention that quite a few AD casters were directly buffed on this patch as well, so it's likely that they'll be rising up in the meta a little bit. And with a buff to AD casters and assassins, it means a nerf to immobile mages who struggle versus those kinds of champions, especially in lane, since they tend to be hyper mobile and have an easy time fitting a Hexdrinker into their builds. And the third group of champions who received an indirect buff is anyone who can make effective use of critical strikes and attack speed, so generally AD carries, but also a few random champions like Yasuo. Among the buffs to the Keystone Masteries in this patch, the buff to Warlord's Bloodlust was by far the most impactful, increasing the attack speed and lifesteal gained from it by a full 10% at level 18, with having a 2-second cooldown and a 4-second duration, gives you essentially a permanent 30% extra attack speed and a boatload of lifesteal in the late game. Although it won't be as strong in the early game anymore, you never really had that much crit chance in the early game to begin with, so this mastery was always all about the late game. This is also a little bit of a blow to the tanks and bruisers because, well, they are the ones getting hit by and diving the characters who are critting them, benefiting from Warlord's Bloodlust, so they'll die a little bit faster now in fights and have a little bit harder of a time finishing off their targets due to the added sustain. And with the direct and indirect buffs to AD casters and assassins on this patch, their primary counter of utility supports is going to get a leg up as well. This is stuff like Janna, Lulu, and other high crowd control kite-based supports. These kinds of champions do an amazing job of locking down these AD champions trying to dive in and assassinate your backline through utility, protection, and other forms of crowd control. Since those assassins and AD casters are going to be a little bit more powerful, they're going to be a little bit more popular, which gives room for the utility supports to shine by countering the assassins and protecting their AD carries. And that's just about all of the hidden buffs that I could come up with. Here are some of my favorite comments from a previous video where I asked what your favorite thing about Jhin was. For a chance to be featured in a future video, leave a comment about what your favorite change in patch 6.1 is. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.
Her body's gold like September. She burns through the night like an ember. And all those things we try forgetting, I remember. But we say we all fine, we all fine. Sunny day dreams and we up now. Vodka lemonade, I serve it up